open class. Today we have a guest speaker, and he is an expert on thermal insulation. He first worked in the industry in a big Japanese construction company, and then he went back into research, and he researched for 2 or 3 years also in Germany at the Technical University of Berlin. And then he moved back to Japan just after the oil crisis in the 70s, and he contributed to passive solar architecture, and he is also an expert about a very efficient and beneficial form of insulation, and he'll explain that in detail. Furthermore, even after retirement, he keeps active in his field as the president of the Japanese Association for Housing Thermal Insulation Technology Corporation.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming to my lecture today. My name is Tatsuaki Tanaka. Energy saving is important to prevent global warming. Thermal insulation is a significant energy conservation method. A variety of insulation materials and methods are used for thermal insulation in buildings. External thermal insulation composite system with ethics is thought of as an excellent insulation method. However, it is widely misunderstood in our country, so its development has been very slow. Today, I want to present some information about ethics. This is my career. I was born 1940 in Tokyo, therefore very old man. I completed a master's course at Waseda University in March 1965. I learned architectural studies, especially building physics and building equipment science. I joined Obayashi Corporation the following month at their Technical Research Institute in Kiyose, Tokyo. At that time, the simulation by computer was just beginning. We didn't know whether the simulated heating load or the cooling load would match observed results. So, in collaboration with Professor Kenichi Kimura of Waseda University, we made a revolving type air conditioning laboratory and measured the actual cooling and heating load of the building. This shows a section of revolving type test room. At that time, revolving type test room was also constructed in Fraunhofer Institute in Holzkirchen, Germany. The purpose of this test room was exactly the same as ours. I knew the revolving test room in Germany through the German magazine Gesundheitsingenieur. At that time, there was no email. Instead, we corresponded with the researcher Dr. Kunze by airmail. Even now, we are in good correspondence. I visited Dr. Helmut Kunter in Holzkirchen, Germany in 2016. He is in good health and 93 years old and gave me a warm welcome. He recently published a book about building science and presented it to me. Measurement of cooling load on 18th August 1967. I reported some examination results in the German magazine HLH. HLH means Heizungs-Lüftungshaustechnik, heating and ventilation technique, in 1969. This is a typical Japanese house which was built in 1932 in Takasaki, Gunma Prefecture. The famous German architect Bruno Taut lived in this house from August 1934 to October 1936. In summer in Japan, the outside temperature is high and humidity is also high. Japanese traditional houses have been built to be easy to live in during summer. Traditional Japanese houses are not insulated and are open to the outside. Do you know architect Bruno Taut? Bruno Taut escaped the Nazi regime and went into exile in Japan in 1933. At that time, Japan was trying to work with the Nazis, so Taut couldn't good job in Japan, such as professor of Tokyo University. In fact, Taut couldn't get any design work in Japan. He stayed in Dharma Temple in Takasaki and wrote many books introducing Japanese culture, especially about Katsura Palace in Kyoto. As a result, Taut became very famous. At that time, architects designed houses only for rich people. Bruno Taut designed with the idea that an ordinary worker could live in healthy houses. Bruno Taut planned a lot of houses in Germany before coming to Japan and became famous. For residential complexes, in Germany they say Siedlung, planned by Bruno Taut and registered as a UNESCO World Cultural Heritage. In Ochanomizu residential complex stands a monument to appreciate Bruno Taut, this one. This was designed by Bruno Taut in Berlin, Ochanomizu. Bruno Taut designed his house in Dahlewitz, a suburb of Berlin, in 1932. He lived in this house only a short time before coming to Japan. Bruno Taut designed Hyuga Villa in Atami in 1936. This is only one of his works in Japan that remains in today. As this figure shows, Japanese end energy consumption is growing every year. The consideration of an energy-saving houses has become very important. Ethics is suitable for energy-saving houses. I would like to introduce you to Japanese ethics. Thermal insulation is constructed for both thermal comfort and saving energy saving. Humans produce heat by eating. This heat is dissipated by convection, radiation, and evaporation from the human body to keep the body temperature constant. Heat transfer by convection. Heat transfer by radiation. Heat transfer by evaporation. Human's body temperature is kept constant by losing heat by convection, radiation, and evaporation. The amount of heat transfer depends on room air temperature, room relative humidity, and air motion. If room air temperature is high, the human body loses heat by evaporation. Near a cold window, the human body loses heat by radiation. If near a window with high temperature, the human body gets heat by radiation. The human body loses heat by evaporation if the surrounding relative humidity is low. Predicted mean mode, PMV, is used as an indicator of thermal comfort. PMV is determined from mathematical expressions showing the thermal balance of the human body. Indicators related to this are air temperature, relative humidity, air velocity, average surface temperature of the surroundings. This is called MRT. Human metabolic rate, activity, and the amount of clothing worn. Predicted mean mode, PMV, is used as an indicator of thermal comfort. An indicator of thermal dissatisfaction is called predicted percentage of dissatisfied. If we know PMV, we can obtain PPD. PMV and PPD. Researchers use special unit for amount of clothing. It is unit symbol called the CLO. Human metabolic rate is expressed in the unit MET, MET. Usually, the MET in an office building is 1.2, and CLO in summer is 1.5, and in winter, summer is 0.5, and in winter, 1.0. If PMV falls between minus 0.5 and plus 0.5, it is supposed to be comfortable by ISO 7730. Still, 10% of people feel that environmental is unpleasant. PMV's research was done by Professor Fanger, Technical University of Denmark. This is comfortable, but 10% people feel not dissatisfied. Air temperature and relative humidity are measured by cyclometer. Cyclometer is a special name. So this is only thermometer and humidity meter. The average surface temperature of surroundings is measured by globe thermometer. This is called globe thermometer. Diameter is 15 centimeter. Outside thermal insulation protects the building from outside elements, for example, temperature, sunshine, and rain. Inside thermal insulation is popular in Japan, but heat loss at heat bridge is large. Sometimes water condensation occurs in the wall. This corner is called thermal bridge. And this is outside insulation. This is inside insulation. In Japan, we use usually this thermal insulation method. But I want to explain about ethics. This is configuration of ethics. This is outside wall, for example, made of concrete. This is thermal insulation material. Ethics with wood fiber insulation board. The most commonly used insulation materials at present are expanded polystyrene and mineral wool. Recently, wood fiber insulation boards have also been used. I worked at Hermann Rietschel Institute at the Technical University of Berlin from 1971 to 1973. In October of 1973, the first oil shock occurred. I returned to Japan and joined the Sunshine Project, which was planned by the Japanese government. The purpose of this project was so that Japanese people could live with less oil. We built an experimental house which was able to be heated, cooled, and have hot water supplied by solar energy. This house had to be built highly airtight and with good thermal insulation. I applied the ethics I learned while in Berlin to this house. I'd like to explain the heating method using solar heat. Heating method using solar heat include closed heating and open air heating. By closed type heating, the circulating pump only overcomes pipe resistance. However, the water in the piping remains even when it is cold in winter. Therefore, measures to prevent freezing are necessary. It is also possible to put antifreeze in circulating water. Also measures the temperature of the water in the pipe and moves the pump as it approaches 0 Celsius. In closed type heating, no corrosion of piping occurs. because no air is mixing in the piping. By open type heating, the circulating pump overcomes the resistance of piping, and at the same time it needs power to raise power from the lowest part of the piping to the highest. However, at night the system no longer collects solar heat, so the pump stops. Water in the piping drops down into the storage tank. At least there is no worry about freezing. This is open type and this is closed type. The efficiency of photovoltaic cell power generation was low when I first began working, but it has greatly improved since. The problems of freezing and of corrosion using solar heat have not been solved yet. I believe that future photovoltaic cell power will be more useful than solar heat. We used an absorption machine to perform cooling using solar heat. I would like to introduce the principle of such a machine. A substance takes away heat when it evaporates. The absorber contains substances that absorb water very well, such as lithium bromide and lithium chloride. The absorbent material attracts water from the evaporator connected by piping. Water evaporates, removing heat and thus chilling the water. This chilled water in turn cools the room. The material in the absorber absorbs water, resulting in a dilute solution, and a dilute solution is pumped up to the regenerator. This dilute solution is then heated up by heat in the regenerator. The heat evaporates the water of the solution. There are 4 vessels in this absorption machine. This is evaporator, and this is called absorber. And this one is regenerator, and this is condenser. And there is absorption resolution. And this is only water, and this is also water. By evaporating water, this is cooled, and we can get chilled water. Chilled water is used for air conditioning or cooling. And this is regenerator, and also it is called separator. before this solar heat or waste heat from factories are used. Therefore, absorption machine is very environmental friendly, you can say. And by cooling tower, condenser is cooled. There are two types of cooling tower. This house was built by Sunshine Project in Osaka. The building site with ethics. The thickness of the insulation materials was 10 centimeters. The attachment of the insulation materials, EPS. EPS means expanded polystyrene. I built a solar house for myself in Tokyo in 1980. I also applied the ethics for this house. I have lived in this house ever since without any complications or problems. This house is insulated from the outside. Therefore, the inside is finished with crude concrete. This solar house is heated and has warm water supplied by solar energy. In my solar house, passive cooling is used in summer using the chimney effect. In the winter, the basement window is closed and is heated through the greenhouse effect. This window, and this is opening. In summer, chimney effect, and in winter, greenhouse effect. This room is heated. This chart shows the heating and warm water supply system using solar energy in my solar house. In 2018, in this year, this house was retrofitted for energy saving and improvement of thermal comfort. There was double glass window and added triple glass windows from inside. In all, a 5-pane glass window. This house stands not in Hokkaido, but in Tokyo. This house was insulated from the outside. The thickness of this insulation material was only 3 centimeters. By this retrofit, 10 centimeter thickness wood fiber was attached from the inside. Outside wall was painted with inorganic paint. After the Second World Oil Shock in 1979, the ventilation volume was minimized. As a result, mold sometimes appeared in the buildings. This hospital became moldy. The east side insulation of the hospital was renovated with ethics. I recommend you to read the Bible, Leviticus chapter 14, 33 to 7, on the damage of mold. This one, Leviticus. Did you read it? This patient's room became moldy. The left side of this hospital was insulated by ethics. The right side of this hospital was insulated from the inside. We measured outside surface temperature with a thermal camera on a very cold day. The temperature of the left side was lower than that of right side. The right side of the hospital discharges much more heat than does the left side. I reported the results of this research to the German magazine Gesundheitsingenieure. After renovation with ethics, the amount of mold discharged significantly. I built a highly airtight and well-thermally insulated house in Tokyo in 2015. This is wood fiber thermal insulation board used for this house. Highly density wooden panels were attached to these external walls. They were also insulated by an external thermal composite system. The thickness wooden fiber boards were attached directly to the outside wall using 70 mm metal nails. Adhesive mortar was coated on the wood fiber boards. This picture shows adhesive mortar work. Wood fiber insulation board has a big thermal capacity. Another thermal insulation materials such as glass fiber or polystyrene has not so big thermal capacity. Because of the large thermal capacity of wood fiber, there is a large time lag between the outside soil air temperature and the room air temperature. Inside amplitude of solar heat plus outside temperature decrease in the room through the large thermal capacity of wood fiber. Usually this radiator panel is used only for heating, but the heating element was used also for cooling by circulating chilled water from a heat pump. We measured air temperature distribution using a synchronous sheet and thermal camera. Heating and cooling elements was installed on the second floor. Using sensors, the stairs are lit only when in use. Inorganic paint from Germany was used for its fire resistance and to keep the room free of VOC. Inorganic paint is not popular in Japan, but it is often used in Germany. Bruno Taut is known as a painting architect. He observed that some painters developed brain damage after retirement. It was caused by using organic paints. From that, he used inorganic paint. Airtight and high thermal resistance windows were installed. Bedroom on the second floor. Living room on the first floor. Kitchen and counter. Kitchen. To prevent solar heat gain in summer, external blinds were used. I would like to show you the power consumption for heating and cooling of this house. In May, there was no heating or cooling consumption, so this month was used as a baseline of electricity consumption for heating and cooling in other months. Using new heating and cooling technology, the electricity cost became lower. This power consumption was used for heating or cooling. I conducted research into energy conservation buildings at Obayashi Corporation. For that, I used a lot of Obayashi Corporation's money. However, there were no customers seeking energy-saving buildings at that time. Thus, Obayashi's interest in my research waned. However, other places saw the value of my work. Ochanomizu University and several companies invited me to continue with them. I am thankful and moved to Ochanomizu University. At the university, I tried to teach the students what I had learned. These days, my former students are attractive in various foreign countries. Even in Germany, one of them, Ms. Tanaka, is a researcher at the Fraunhofer Institute in Germany, but she will temporarily return to Japan in November to give lectures in Tokyo and Osaka. This is a great present for me. This one. Thank you for attending. This is my email address. And next one. this is my home page address, URL. It's not so important.
Okay, let's give a big applause to Professor Tanaka. And he was very efficient with his time. That means we have plenty of time for questions. And he looks forward to your questions. When you have a question, please raise your hand and I will pass the mic to you. So who has the first question? So any question is fine, is welcome. Yes?
ありがとうございました。ペイントについて聞きたくて、インオーガニックペイントはオーガニックペイントと何が違うんですか？
インオーガニックペイントは無機インオーガニックだから、ということは火事になっても燃えません。ファイアレジスタンス。だから VOC ってVO いろんなオーガニックペイント VOC ね。
英語の VOC の意味は the meaning of VOC is volatile organic compounds. And if you paint your house with organic paint, then the paint continues to emit these volatile organic compounds into the air and you breathe them into your lungs, and many people are allergic against it. And the painter himself, when he paints it, he gets the highest concentration and he breathes this concentration in. And as Professor Tanaka explained, some painters, from breathing in too many of these volatile organic compounds, they get brain sickness. So the substances damage their brain.
なんでインオーガニックペイントはあまり使われてないというか、なんでオーガニックペイントがメジャーなんですか？
日本では高いんです。We must import from Germany. This maker produces inorganic paint. Keimfarben.
If inographic paint is so efficient, why and how much expensive inographic paint compared with Japan and Germany?
In Germany, they are sold not so expensive, but in Japan, it's very, very expensive, 5 times.
Oh, 5 times? Oh.
About 5 times.
So it's almost impossible to get inographic paint in Japan. Is it only possible to import from Germany or
another companies, another countries also, it's possible.
Well, Obayashi Corporation selling inographic paint?
Obayashi Corporation is constructing company.
Oh, yeah, I know, of course, yeah. So it may be almost impossible to get organic paint, inographic paint in Japan. Oh, thank you very much.
Further questions? Yes?
Hello? Hi, thank you for your presentation. I was just curious what, it's like a personal question, but what inspired you to pursue architecture as your career?
When I was high school student, I read a book about Bruno Taut. And he was architect. Therefore, I visited university in architecture course. My hobby is research about Bruno Taut. I published so many books about Bruno Taut.
Has there been any houses that use ethics along with geothermal heating?
Ethics is very popular in foreign countries, but it's not known in Japan. Japanese government is very conservative.
彼の質問は his question is if even in foreign countries there is combination of a house with ethics and having a geothermal heat pump. その地熱 heating のと ethics の combination.
It's very good, I think.
Oh. Okay. Thank you. Further questions? Yes?
Thank you. Thank you very much for your very wonderful and interesting lecture. I'm interested in Professor Tanaka's house, which was built in 1980. You said that it continues to be a good place for comfortable living. In terms of economic benefit, I wonder how economically beneficial your house is compared to average Japanese house of the similar size.
It is very difficult to compare with another houses, especially such living houses. Therefore, we compare always in hospitals.
I see.
They have always. I showed you the picture of hospital in Nagano, and each side was insulated from outside, and west side was insulated from inside, and both buildings has almost same rooms. Patient's room for 4 people and for 6 people. We can compare, but living houses, it's very difficult to compare.
Thank you very much.
Perhaps in connection with Professor Chiba's question, the usual lifetime of a house in Japan is not even 30 years. But your house already is 38 years, and you renovated it. So how long do you expect can the house still continue?
I hope over 100.
Yes.
Much more.
Oh, I see. So then maybe if you can use the house for such a long time, then instead of constructing 3 houses, you can always use one house. It's a good economic benefit, I think. Further questions? Yes?
Thank you for the lecture. I would want to ask a question about wood fiber thermal insulation board. If it were to be built in a tropical country, then will this wood board have any problem with the humidity or the termite or carpenter ants? Thank you.
Wood fiber insulation board.
Yeah. Yes, the wood fiber insulation board. Will it have problem with termites? Yep.
Wood fiber insulation boards are not so popular in Japan, but I expect to be used much more because this is very environmental friendly.
Maybe one can add to Professor Tanaka's answer from thermal insulation efficiency viewpoint. You should not have humidity in the wood fiber because that would reduce the insulation a lot, the insulation effect. And only if you have humidity, then the termites can eat the wood fiber. So anyway, when you install the wood fiber insulation, you would carefully cover it to prevent humidity entering it, and in that way it would also be safe against termites. Any further questions? Maybe I have a question. So, for example, if anybody here in the future wants to build a house or renovate a house and add the ethics insulation, can we just go to a Japanese company and ask, please install ethics external insulation, or how should we do it?
Please ask our society.
Okay, so you say the society of which you are president, Japanese Association for Housing Thermal Insulation Technology Convention, they could help.
There are so many good consultants.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, so if you ever think you want to add this wonderful insulation system, which will also provide the mold in the house, prevent the mold from building up in the house, and therefore also protect the structure of the house, then please turn to the Japanese Association for Housing Thermal Insulation Technology Corporation, and Professor Tanaka says they have the experts. They're happy to consult you. Any further questions? If not, then let's give a final applause to Professor Tanaka.